you've mentioned that, you've been influenced by the different aspects of art, whether it's music, whether it's art. You mentioned comics as well. I would love to hear what sort of works have influenced you significantly to a moment where, you actually can keep them responsible for a part of your development. Favorite authors, books, painters, whatever the case might be.
Actually, there was a movie that really inspired me when I was like 15 called Into the Wild. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Eddie Vedder soundtrack, Societies. Absolutely beautiful movie.
Yeah, so when I saw that was like probably a couple of months after I dropped out of school. And then I saw that film and it kind of opened my mind and eyes to, you have to look after yourself. And if you don't, even your parents want a certain thing for you, but that doesn't mean it's your thing. And then that kind of led me on a path of finding my favorite authors and artists, and like MC Escher is like one of my favorite painters, mathematicians, however he classifies himself. And then I found Alan Watts and Buckminster Fuller, and then I watched a film called Enter the Void, which I just kept that on loop.
You were one of the, sorry to cut you off, but you're actually one of the very few people in my life that I've met that have actually watched this movie.
Yeah.
And I love Gaspar Noe, the director. For me, he's such a big revolutionary in every aspect. So sorry to cut you off.
I know that film is a hard watch for a lot of people, but I feel like the way Gaspar made that film was on purpose. It was to kind of weed out people that felt uncomfortable. And I think if you're able to identify what's making you feel uncomfortable and go straight through it, it's like having a bad psychedelic experience. Mm-hmm. I feel like most people, if they have a bad experience, they're like, oh, this is all bad and I feel terrible. It's like, yeah, we all feel terrible all the time, but like, search for what is specifically making you feel terrible. I can't remember who said it, but the only way out of hell is to go straight through it.
Yeah.
And then I found I really fell in love with Stoicism.
Yeah.
Marcus Aurelius. But then on the contrary, there's authors and philosophers like Franz Kafka, which my soul is like a Kafka, a bit nihilistic, but a bit beautiful.
Yeah.
But it's important to search over the vast library of expression that human beings have gone through for centuries, and then I found a deep love for architecture when I was probably 17 or 18 or something. And European architecture has always been my absolute favorite, and specifically like Eastern European architecture.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
And for me, my love for architecture kind of grew from when I started drawing. If I could design my own city, what would it look like specifically? And then that kind of grew into if I created my own universe, what would it be? And then in the pandemic, for instance, I started taking all my drawings and then making like 3D world building renderings in different like softwares and stuff. And that expanded my mind so much into the way I just like categorize my thoughts and my feelings. And I was able to just create my own world to the degree where it's like I'm so far into that, like I have maybe a toe left in reality. Which can be dangerous sometimes, but as long as you identify and realize what you're doing, you're able to stay on a specific path and course of expression. And then another film I really fell in love with was Tree of Life. I don't know if you've seen that one.
Terrence Malick. That's, again, one of my favorite ones.
Yeah. Just like the fact that he tells this beautiful story and then halfway through shows you the existence of mankind and the planet and species.
In the subject of a person.
Yeah.
Just associating the existence of every single person in a comparison with the whole universe.
And then you come right back to the story.
It's
that tripped me out. I was like, damn, I didn't know movie storytelling could be done in that way.
Could entail that much, it's just, I was really interested in that because it actually entailed feelings rather than, specific and develops, summaries as, many other films do.
Also, it makes you just, consciousness is done in such a way where it's a paradox. Like, we're trying to understand our brains with our brains. Mm-hmm. So it's this infinite paradoxical state that we're in. But we're magnified so close in our everyday reality, that if you're able to zoom out a bit further and a bit further and a bit further, you realize like what we are doing here is beautiful nonsense.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you have to enjoy it, because if you don't, then it's just tragic nonsense.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know if you're into, astrophysics and the philosophers that are, around this area, but
it gets a bit too, like Buckminster Fuller. I love him. It gets a bit too educational for me.
Yeah. There are a few particular authors that are really like that, are sort of associating the nature and the fabrics of the universe with the person's existence. Yeah. And one of them, called Brian Greene, I really like them because he pretty much, says what you just mentioned as well. Because we as people, we're almost programmed to find meaning in what we do, in what we are, and trying to figure out why we are here, But in the end of the day, the beauty behind the existence is that it doesn't matter, And so just, to double down on what you said. So that's fantastic.
And there's a quote from Marcus Aurelius as well, to where like levels of magnification, where you visualize yourself in this room, see it from the building you're in, see it from the city you're in, see it from the country you're in, see it from the world you're in. And then if you do that at least once a day, then you can kind of have sort of an understanding of the game that we're all playing, Because at the end of all of this, it is a game. And if you're able to go through life and come to the end of your road, which fortunately and unfortunately, there's an end to everything in life. There's a lot of people that pretend or like to pretend like that's not the case, but it is. So if you're able to identify that, then you'll have a much better time playing this game.